If I start to feel overwhelmed, I can feel it too. Like all these companies got kids, I got examples, I got my body, I got all this stuff. And then things happen. What do? You got to be able to respond, not react. You'll be able to still get the result when all that happens. That requires a different way of thinking. That's the piece we got to get in you so it starts happening so often that it's automatic. In the beginning, it'll take longer because it'll be new. But as you start getting it, it'll get faster and faster. That's why it's called the rapid planning method as well. But it's a lifestyle. It's a results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action lifestyle. And that will produce a quality of life beyond anything you've dreamed about. It's not only worked that way for me, but anybody that I've worked with, any of the companies I've developed. That's why we can dominate over and over again. Because most people are so busy trying to react, solve problems, or figure out what to do, and they're always stressed because there's more to do than there is time for. I don't serve time, time serves me. That's what you want to have as your new belief system. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. For example, people know around me, I'm very clear, I'm here to get the result. We go to a meeting, we don't go to meetings to have meetings, we go to meetings to get a result, to make some decisions, to resolve something. Meetings are a waste of time unless you have a clear set of objectives. We can spend the first 10 minutes connecting and loving on each other, and okay, now what are our outcomes? What are the results we're after in this meeting? What do we need to resolve? Let's make some decisions. That's what changes your life with action. That's what we do. I want to ask you, how did you take that impossible dream and convert it into reality? I want you all to figure out right now, what was the first thing you did to take this thing that seemed impossible and turn it into reality in your life? Most people, when you ask them what they want, you know what most people tell you? I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to feel like this. And of course, whatever you focus on, wherever focus goes, energy flows. If you're a classic perfectionist, then how they present and what they focus on, how they adapt in positive ways, how they adapt in negative ways to challenges. So a classic person, they're really disciplined. They have to be in control of everything all the time. They're very orderly. And they're highly reliable and consistent because of that. They're very detail-oriented. But because it has to be a certain way, they struggle to adapt to be spontaneous. A second version is the Parisian. The difference is they want it to be perfect also, but they want everybody to not only do what they want them to do, but they want them to feel of their approval. They want you to like them while they do it, right? And if they think that's not going to happen, well, in a positive way, they're pretty accepting and not judgmental. They understand the power of interpersonal communications. But if they feel like you're not liking them, then they struggle to follow through. They struggle to have boundaries or articulate, and they often are toxic to the level of people pleasing, and they don't follow through because what if somebody doesn't like it? So their procrastination is not, I'm not totally in control. Theirs is, if I do this, people won't like it. A third version is just pure procrastinator. These are people waiting for conditions to be perfect before they begin. So before they even start, everything has to be perfect. They over-prepare to the point of paralysis because they don't want to fail. So man, I don't want to begin until I know for sure I'm going to succeed. So let me give you a little phrase for all of you who have perfectionism in, because we all have some of it, right? Perfect is the lowest standard possible. How can I say that? Because you know it's impossible for anything to be perfect. So as a result, you're just showing how committed you are, and then you either don't do it because it can be perfect, or you beat yourself up because it's not enough to show everybody how committed you are. None of which will be anything good in your life. Another version of this is the messy procrastinator. These are die-hard romantic people that are overly optimistic. They start planning and doing things really well because they're very optimistic, and they pretty much are effortless at pushing through the beginnings, but they almost never complete. And why don't they complete? Because they struggle to stay focused on their goals, because their energy gets spread so thin, because they're optimistic about doing everything all the time. And then they don't get anything done, or they don't get things done that matter. And finally, the last one is intense. That's someone who's focused on the outcomes above all else. We got to get this result. This is the goal. What's positive? They find it effortless and transparent. They're razor sharp to get the job done. What's not so good is if they stay that intense, they're very intense, and they may feel antagonistic, or people may feel stressed around them. How many follow? How many of you, even by that super fast overview, know which one you might relate to a bit? You recognize the pattern, then you can say, look, this isn't working. Let me just break that pattern. That's not me, it's just a pattern, but it's a pattern that doesn't serve me. Does that make sense? And that'll help you follow through on your map, because otherwise you'll get a map and still not follow through, because you got this game inside your head that says it has to be a certain way all the time, or it has to be perfect. I gave you 2 examples before we break of how you could down and dirty quickly make a little RPM block. A result, a clear purpose, and a massive action plan or a map. The principles you've learned so far. I picked somebody and I said, what's something you want to build a plan? And he goes, well, I don't even know how. I said, what is it? So he said to me, I want to raise $100,000 for scholarships for kids, but it seemed so big. I said, let's do a quick down and dirty RPM block, a mini plan for this. Not a giant project that takes you months or years, just something we'll do real fast. So we're gonna start with the center. What's the outcome you want? And I pushed him until he came up with a language, and the language became, I want to resolve a plan for an event to raise $100,000 for scholarships for kids. It's our next question. What's our why? What's our purpose? What are our reasons? What are his? He said, I want to give the kids the skills to have an awesome life, and I know with that scholarship I can do this for them. I said, okay, great. Now, what's your action plan? And he said, well, I don't know where it start. I said, most things start with brainstorming. So his first step is to brainstorm possible people to interview who produce results like this. You're gonna brainstorm who to go to. You're not gonna reach them all. Let's contact the top 5 people. Then we're gonna interview those best options, those 5 best people. And then what do we need to do? Well, we gotta get them to give us proposals about what they would do, and then we gotta resolve and choose which one. I said, do you feel certain you could do those things in these steps? He said, yeah. I said, well, then let's add it up. It's 9 hours and 25 minutes. Could he do that this week, yes or no? This is how the job gets done. By the way, the only difference between an RPM block, and you'll learn later, a project is a project might have multiple outcomes to get to the ultimate outcome. Like, for example, lose 100 pounds. I'd have an RPM block like this for the nutrition plan, an RPM like block, a second one that might be the exercise plan, another one on how we're gonna support myself to follow through. And those 4 or 5 blocks become a project. So if you know what you're after, that's kind of where we start. How do I manage my life? I manage 2 areas, maybe 3. I manage my personal life, personal categories, and I work on my professional life. I have 3, some of you have 3. The third area of management is a company. So you might be a manager of divisions, so you might have categories of improvement there. Now, what am I talking about, categories of improvement? In order for us to make regular progress, remember earlier we described, it'd be great if I gave that example, remember we took everything out of your house, and we take it to the new house and we dump it all on the floor, it'd be stressful. But if you had predetermined kitchen items, the kids' clothes, food, whatever, within a few minutes, you could take that random chaos, put it in those places, and now when you want it, you know exactly where to go get it and focus on it, not a million things multitasking.